Something you lot, I think you missed or you haven't understood, I try to explain again. This is your container. This is your zinc plate. And this is your copper plate, nano-coated. Copper has different condition. You need to loosen its structure with nanomaterial, so you nano-coated it. You have loosened the layer. But the plate itself still is molecularly attached. Always. The same thing is with your zinc plate. Sorry about that. I was never a good artist. Your zinc plates are again attached. To you, because you are used to physicality and tangibility, that's all you see. What I see is very different. You see a woman, I see a beautiful woman, or I see an ugly woman. Do I want to interact, or I want to keep away? Marco says, no, we don't do that. We just measure first. So what do we do? To you, that's all it is. To me, even in the matter state, every atom is a plasma. So what does it do? You send your odor around. This is this one. It sends its odor around. If I'm sending an odor out, I would like to have something back too. This is the gravitational pull of the zinc atoms, because everyone is still in the atomic structure. And the green's R is magnetical. I'm sending out the scouts. See what's my boundary. Now, the nanolayers of the copper are a slightly different pack. They do something very, very different. They go, we send our scouts out as well. I want to see what's happening. And I want to know what's coming back. So what you get in here is a mayhem of exactly what happens on the upper atmosphere of the Earth between the four field forces of the Earth, gravitational magnetic field of the Sun and the Earth. And here what you produced was nitrogen. Because you created the residual gravitational magnetic field of nitrogen, and that residual magnetic field of nitrogen means anything in the package that size is mine. Come in. So the interaction of the four field forces, first of all, creates the environment of the plasma of nitrogen at the level of nitrogen. So whatever fields are gone or going through from the Sun out, which fit the size, get attracted. Some coming from interaction of the fields themselves. So what you're doing here is exactly the same. Now, four field forces, 65, 59, 6. Very easy. Multiple, you have 6 going, 6 coming. You're 12. But in fact, you're only interested and you get what is left over. So what do you get? 6 neutron coming in, in interaction, you have a copper, you have a carbon, you have a hydrogen and oxygen, and usually link up, you get your CO2. Because of this environment you created here, the sun was there. Now, so if you look at your plasma, this is your plasma. What you get is this. Two oxygens and a carbon. This is the status of your copper oxide and zinc. Now, you create the same box. You put the same copper in. You nanocoat it. But here, now you put the zinc and iron underneath of it because it's a plated chicken mesh. Now you create two fields. One is field of gravitational field of the the zinc, and then parallel with it you have the the magnetical field of the iron. But here you have the magnetical coming out, the gravitational field of the zinc going in. But at the same time, you have the gravitational field of iron going in too. But you have the same position here. Gravitational and magnetical. So, what you have here is a very interesting position where, if I do this here, I think it'll be much better. Don't forget, when I put O2 here with two O's and a carbon, it means the strength field of the center core is mass of 2 oxygen. What happens here? If you take the if you take the zinc and copper, you have your CO2 condition. But there is another factor. Don't forget, this was 60, 59. This was 65. And this one is 56. Now, between this and this, you create a gravitational magnetic field of CO2. But you have a problem. Now you have iron and carbon, what do you call it, the copper, creating their own field too. Then you have an additional problem that the gravitational magnetic iron and a zinc create their own field too. So now you have possibilities of 2 to 3 different materials to be produced depending on the coating of the zinc on the iron. So how your plasma looks is you have 65 minus 59, 6, which gives you the carbon. You have 65 minus 56, which is 9. Then you have the 59 by 56, which gives you 3. This is zinc, copper, zinc, iron. Then you have copper, iron. Remember the structure of the plasma. Plasma does not go by atomic length, it goes by central mass. This you already created. You know how it comes. So you have your carbon in. But your carbon, if you look at this plasma, does not allow the whole process to happen because it looks for the balance. The balance is now the carbon is the biggest, becomes the center, but then you have a problem between iron and copper. You see the problem between copper and iron. So you're looking for 9 because it's the more powerful one. The condition of the environment and the water you have put in has huge say. So now you're creating a gravitational magnetic field of 9 in either combination. Copper, iron, and copper, zinc. This environment is very much to itself. Is this one which dictates where the magnets or the fields position each other. How tight, how far, how close, and then the gravitational magnetic field of that environment, according to the strength, will dictate the condition. Don't forget, the coating itself suppresses or links up with some of the fields from the iron itself anyway, because it's attached to it as a coating. When you coat materials, it's not that they're going to stick, they link in the way that they link up their magnetic field. So it's already tied up partially there. So what are you going to get? You have the carbon, and then you have 6 out of the 9 already spoken for. Now you need gravitational magnetic field of 3 Tesla, we call it. Yeah? We don't have 3. We have 3 doesn't exist in the world of physics. But you can have 3 if you like. If it was 4, we can compromise with the helium. But with 3, you can't have a helium and then have something else. So the compromise for the balance of 3 Tesla three individuals will give you the same gravitational magnetic field. The totality, the maximum to the minimum is 9. So that's your maximum. This shows you the strongest partner. This shows you the weakest partner. Totality is the strongest to the weakest. Yeah? The plate decides which position. The maximum field sits somewhere here. But now, even is a maximum field, is two fields superimposed in the coated metal. It's the field strength of the copper which pulls this one to the center here and pulls this one to the side here or there. And then when they come out, they have to decide their position. I have a carbon, there is no tree, we get hydrogens. So your plasma looks like a carbon and 3 layers of hydrogen. So you have a carbon there and a strength of 3 hydrogens. Where in the CO2, the strongest in the center was the oxygen. You can't come in because I hold to the gravity. The weakest becomes the magnetical on the boundary. The same thing here. Carbon becomes the center of the plasma. Now you have energy of 3 carbon plasmas hanging outside, common in the center. So this is how this works. This is how this gravitational magnetic field of the nanomaterial decides where this guy sits. In fact, in here, you have 2 layers of plasmas. One of carbon and one of the hydrogen. So now you have created 2 environments. And we said the strongest decide in respect to the position of the weakest. When you're stronger, you bring the weakest closer. When you're weaker, you can push it or find your distance from it. So one is become an oxygen, a carbon, or carbon now, what they call it, hydrogen, or carbon and hydrogen. Don't forget, this is a dynamic condition. So now you created 2 magnets, one for hydrogen, one for a carbon. This is your environment. What would you like to pull in? This brings in the carbon, this brings the hydrogen from the gaseous environment of the above. And in that process, as the carbon is coming down, you still get your amino acid. If you haven't understood up to now, this is your gravitational, this is your magnetic. Sits the boundary, the outside. So how it works is very simple. You create a plasmatic magnetic field and the environment provides it if he has it. If you get nothing and is not there, your field is not equal, you have 2 plates, what happens then? Don't forget, it looks for the nearest field strength. It cannot get it, but still creates a current flow. you put in this pack Cl, you create condition of the matter state, it becomes plate condition. Now, your nanomaterial from the plates oxidize in the matter state to zinc oxide or copper oxide in a matter state. Because now you connected it, you work in a current flow matter state condition. And then you produce condition of, if you get a certain current, don't forget, something very, very important you have to remember. You need very low power flow to create Ganses. If the current flow goes very high, suddenly you go into the matter state. Because it's part of the matter state, the process becomes an AC and you're in a matter state. As long as you can keep your current below and at the DC level, you work in plasma condition in a Gans state. If your current becomes so much that it pushes any of the plates to receive more energy, that it pushes the boundary of the nano layer for the current to flow in, and when it hits the matter, it has to convert to go through it. It finds part of the harmonic. You got to find till you break 2. And then this becomes AC. When it becomes AC, the current flow becomes a matter of state, so you don't create actually copper, what do you call it, zinc oxide you produce, but you don't produce any CO3. And what happens, you can produce CO2 plus zinc oxide. Because the voltage drops low enough to be in a gas state, and then because of the condition of the acidity you created, don't forget you carry in sodium chloride, you carry chloric acid. Creates a current. This is what you put in your batteries. Yeah? But you create a current, but because one plate is nano-coated and it has to go through the nano layer into the matter, so it becomes DC. At a point of entry, it becomes AC. So now you create plating. So when you look at your material, when you get it analyzed, you have copper oxide, or you have zinc oxide, or you find, oh, I have some CO2 here as well. Because when it's a very low DC, and you've seen it in your body, you don't see an AC current, you see a DC current. Plasmas work, gases work only in the DC current level. So, in this condition, you have a composite matter state, gas state. Here, you create the composite plasmas, you get the CH3. Here, you created singularity of the plasma. But one thing you got to remember, go back into what we said about the human body. When you put your matter in your mouth, it becomes in a magnetic field environment. It's in a Gans state, the vacuum condition. So, you have to remember, we're discussing this in the lunch time. If you use the box before to create caustics or not. Because if you use your box first to create caustic, now you're working in a different environment than if it was just for making Gans. Because now you work in a new condition. Because now you have the release and a possibility of ability of C and H from the container. game changes. You find a slightly different color copper oxide. You find a slightly different CH2 or CO2 or CH3. And it depends how many you nano-coated the box, how many times you used it, you'll find your CO2s are a slightly different color. Because it's the same as a leaf of an apple tree or bit from a wheat. Each one is still green, but slightly different green because each one uses different strength CH or CH2 or copper oxide. It's the condition. In plasma technology, you continuously look for the environment you create, the condition you create. And if you have nano-coated your box, that what happens? Some caustic fell out, and then you put this in another box because you don't want it to be touching anything else, and happen to be plastic of a certain type. What do you have here? You have CH, and you have CH, you have a moisture. What do you collect? Carbon does not allow the field to be created. But you have a pretty good idea what you're going to get. Water. You get as long water as you can keep its moisture composition correct. The minute water flows and changes moisture composition, you don't produce any water, since it doesn't work. Because don't forget, when you made a caustic, you didn't do a very good job. You left some sodium. That's why when you make a water unit, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, because you don't understand what you're doing. Now you understand the field, you understand the process. In matter, if I would have put in the methodology of science, if I would have put an alloy in the bucket, where in alloy I have some copper, some zinc, some different materials, but I still keep my copper oxide plate in the salt, you will get a composite Gans. Depends at the moment when you put the material in, what the strength was dictated and what was the composition. Usually with a very mixed composite gases, you get a black Gans. Because it's the same as the zinc or copper coated material. It's a mixture of gases so they absorb the spectrum of light. So try to understand this and separate matter state, which is this, with a gas state, which is this. Here you create the environment. Here you create the material. Here you work in the matter state gravitational magnetic field Because you brought AC into it. AC is the status of matter, phase, plasma. You still get an AC if you go from plasma state to another strength plasma state. But then you have to understand what you enter into. In a space, you do this. In a space, sometimes you go in a heavy plasma state into a light plasma state. And then you get a rapid flow. But you get a twirl and twist. These are called magnetic whirlpools. You get magnetic whirlpools when the plasma enters in the environment when you go from a stronger to a weaker in the direction of the weaker. The Gans, nano-coated, is always stronger in magnetic field, not in matter state. So you create, because you have to find a way to go in the direction. So you'll find yourself in a whirlpool. And if you understood this, it should be very easy for you lot to create a reactor which has no motor. Arman, where are you? He's been kidding me. Can you show me how you can make a reactor without a motor? You missed it. Because if you can create a push enough in a matter state, the magnetic field will push the matter, and that's how the universal motion of the elements like the Earth and Moon and the rest is created. Now, how many of you would like to have a motor? Any cost nothing. You dictate the rate of the flow and you dictate the speed. Do you need a motor? Did the Martian ever had a motor? I've never seen one in Zeus. You understand? Easy now, isn't it? You did all this before. Good. Thank you very much. Would you like to teach us now?